And so you can literally tell GPT, explain to me like I'm 5, make it a story with a main character and a non-main character of how an RESP works. And it'll put together a little story for you. That's super powerful for certain types of clientele, maybe older or younger, trying to explain concepts. Oftentimes there is a disconnect in this industry about the product you're selling, what it actually means to the client, what the fees are, what it does for them, etc. And so if you can put together a little story that's relatable to the client, it goes a long way for them buying it and also them talking about it to other advisors. If they can explain it through a story, just imagine how many people they could tell about it. Massimo here from Advisor Tech Trends. Thank you for joining. It's been a bit of a journey this last week. I've learned a lot. I've been speaking with a lot of people in the advisor world, and honestly, the advisor landscape in Canada is changing a lot. And as I've been talking to advisors, something has been coming up a lot, and I thought I'd put an episode together on it. It's LLMs, or what is ChatGPT, and how do I use it? And I'm actually surprised it's been out for, I think, over almost 2 years now, but definitely over a year. And a lot of advisors have been asking me in demos and at meetups what the heck it is, what it's doing, how can they use it? They're kind of scared of it. And so I thought I'd put together an episode on what I'm seeing some top advisors do with it. It's definitely, you got to tread lightly with compliance, and I'll talk about all that stuff. But I think it's really relevant for the modern advisor. And I personally am in it at least once a day, and typically 5 to 10 times a day for all kinds of little things. And so I'll walk through some real examples that I think you guys will get real value from as we go through this. So as always, welcome. It's great seeing you. This is Advisor Tech Trends, and let's get into it. So let's start off with kind of table stakes, basic stuff. What the heck is ChatGPT? What is an LLM? So what ChatGPT is, it's a language model. And what that means is it is probability based, and it's taking input from you, and it's giving output based on scores or probabilities of what it thinks you're asking and what it has in its database. ChatGPT predominantly is the biggest player. They're now owned by Microsoft. They started as an open project. They moved to closed when they saw the dollar signs, I guess. But the main thing for you to understand is a very smart human-esque tool. And what that means for you and why it's relevant is it can make mistakes, because it's taking your input, it's reading what you said, analyzing it, giving it scores, looking in its database, trying to find out what you said, try to find relevant information for what you said, and give it back to you with a score. And so its probability, it kind of goes, okay, I'm 90% sure this is right. And then you write in again and it tries something else, and it's like, okay, I'm 85% sure this is right, or whatever. And that's called hallucination. And I just want to mention that because as you start using this tool, you will notice that sometimes it gives you different answers. And that's because it's trying with probability to figure out what you're asking, and it's trying with probability to match what you're asking to what it knows. And so as you go through this, you'll notice that you may get confused, but the big, huge benefit about it, and where we're all moving to as a generation, is conversational search. And so what does that mean? That basically means, and when you start using this, you'll find yourself doing it. I maybe Google something twice a week now. It's always in GPT. And so I actually talk to my phone, which has a mobile app for GPT, and ask it a question. It then searches and gives me back the answer. And so this is a powerful new way of searching. Prior, what you would have to do is you would have to search through Google. It would give you the top 10 results. You would go to that result, you would read about it, and you'd find your answer. Now you are asking a question via text or via audio. It is finding a solution or an answer and giving it to you in text. Can also do audio, but most people do text. And so now you're not searching through 5 or 10 articles, going into the first one, coming back out, going into the second. It is distilling that and giving you an answer. And so that's why you have to understand that it's probabilistic. It can hallucinate. It can be wrong. So take it with a grain of salt. But what I will say is it's getting better and better all the time. So many people are using it. There are many hundreds of billions of dollars a year revenue. There's many millions of users on this tool. They do have a free version. You can also have a paid one for, I think, $20 or $30 a month. And essentially that allows you to do a lot more. But if you're just getting started on this, I would say free is fine. So let's talk about why an advisor would use it or how they're using it. As I said, it's kind of just like think of it like a text message window or a live chat window. You'll go into GPT and it'll just be a text box saying, what do you want? Ask me anything. And you can type whatever you want in there. And for those of you that don't know, it's not just a conversation. It can do crazy stuff. It can make Excel file for you, PDFs, pictures, videos, all kinds of stuff. And so as you're going into this tool, don't assume it can just spit out an answer. It can actually spit out a file. And so here are some things that I'm seeing a lot of advisors use it for. So the first one is drafting content or changing content in emails, follow-ups, and other things. So predominantly email. Let's say you have a big email you have to put together and you've written it out and you're kind of like, you know what? I want to change the tone on this. I want to make this more professional or less professional or shorter or longer. You can actually take the content. And so what I tell a lot of people to do is take the email out of your email inbox, put it in GPT and say, make this more professional or bullet point this or make this more succinct. It is absolutely amazing what it can do. And what I'm seeing a lot of advisors do is then take that succinctness and reuse it. So with all things compliance, obviously you are giving this tool data. So you want to tread lightly on what client data you give it. But if you're using it to produce a better template or a better style of communicating, you can definitely do that. And so I see advisors come in here and say, this is what I was going to send to a client after a meeting. Can you make this more succinct? And keep in mind, my clients are Canadian individuals that own over 500,000 in assets, blah, 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 right? If you give it that context, it'll actually write the content with that in mind. And I think that's the really powerful piece of this. So that can be used just for one-off emails if you want, but also for client follow-ups. And that's where the template piece comes into play. And I see a lot of advisors using it for that. So try it out. You will be amazed at how well it can rejig. And you can also tell it, and there's something as you're using this tool called prompt engineering that you may hear going around. And essentially what that means is pretty soon we're not going to have to write code. We're not going to have to do a lot of things as it pertains to the web. You can use AI assistants or AI agents to do that. But what that means is you're going to have to get really good at telling them what to do. And so if you just come into ChatGPT and say, change this email, that's not very good. If you say, my clients are X, Y, and Z, I need an email that focuses on the sale or the post-sale or whatever, and I need it to be succinct, less than 500 words, now you're cooking. And now it can really produce something for you of value. So keep that in mind as you're going in. Try it out. Honestly, you will be amazed, probably hooked just off of this one. The next one that is really cool, and I use it all the time, even for this podcast, is generating content. And so probably a lot of you are like, oh, I should be on the web. I should be on LinkedIn. I should be on Instagram, but I don't know what to say. I don't know what to talk about. This tool can put together a 30-day plan for you or a 5-day plan, whatever you ask it to do. And obviously a lot of things with tools like ChatGPT, you should look at it, you should tweak it, etc. But it can get you 80 or 90% of the way there with a keystroke. And so what I'm seeing a lot of advisors do is say, hey, I'm a Canadian advisor in Ontario, specifically in Windsor. I have this segment of clientele. Give me content because I want to grow into a new segment, or I want to grow this segment. I want to post on LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. So you can hear me prompting it. And I want 50-word sound bites because I'm going to go record a bunch of content. Or I want 15 quotes from high-powered people that I'm going to reuse in some Facebook posts. Or I want a LinkedIn article that you get started that I'm going to tweak on this. And it'll just produce all of that for you in minutes, seconds, actually. And so what I find useful and what a lot of advisors and myself are doing is it gives you the framework. Like I literally asked it to put together this podcast today. It gave me a framework of what to talk about, got my mind thinking. Then I put in some of the stuff I'm seeing in Canada with people, and now we're here. Right. And so it takes a lot of the burden off of giving you a framework. And so if you've been struggling to make content and jump in and start producing stuff, it's a great way. So, and you can make sure it's compliance friendly, right? You can say, listen, compliance is an issue here. You can't talk about X, Y, and Z, and it'll listen and it won't. So number one, customizing email templates, follow-ups, things like that, to creating content. You can create so much content in like 5 keystrokes, which is bananas. The third one, and I've talked about it in some other sessions, is summarizing client meetings and creating action plans. And so if you have some notes out of a client meeting, or if you're using tools like Fathom or some other ones, you can take the content, or you can use one of those AIs, and it'll summarize the whole meeting. It will generate an action plan out of it, and you can tell it to put that action plan into an email. So that's a really great way of using it. I see a lot of advisors that just kind of type a few notes into GPT, post a meeting. It creates a great action plan, kind of says who has to do what on which team, and it'll actually spit it out. And so you can see a lot of this is low value, like it's tweaking it. So it's like the first one is, okay, I want to speed up or make my emails better. The second one is give me a framework for some content. The third one is create an action plan after a meeting. It's stuff that's necessary, but if you can take that out of your mind and let the tool do it for you, and truthfully, it'll do it better or get you the framework better and faster, just lean into it and do it. The next one I've seen a couple advisors do is, and I thought this was pretty cool. I saw an advisor recently struggle with explaining RESPs and RRSPs to younger families, and in a coherent way, I guess. And so they wanted kind of a story to be put together on how an RESP works and why it's there, how an RRSP works and why it's there. And so you can literally tell GPT, explain to me like I'm 5, make it a story with a main character and a non-main character of how an RESP works. And it'll put together a little story for you. That's super powerful for certain types of clientele, maybe older or younger, trying to explain concepts. Oftentimes there is a disconnect in this industry about the product you're selling, what it actually means to the client, what the fees are, what it does for them, etc. And so if you can put together a little story that's relatable to the client, it goes a long way for them buying it and also them talking about it to other advisors. If they can explain it through a story, just imagine how many people they could tell about it. I can't tell you how many times I've seen an advisor sell something to a client, and then the client's talking to their friends or family, and they're like, oh, you bought whole life. Why? And what is it? And they're like, I don't know. My advisor told me to do it. Go talk to yours. Like if they could sit there and explain why, and in a story that their friend or colleague or family understands, that's huge. I'm seeing, this was just one advisor, but I thought it was a really cool thing he did where he prompted it to create this story. The story made a ton of sense to him and his clients, and now he uses it all the time. He's building content around it, etc. So use it for that stuff. The last one I'll mention, and then I'll kind of talk about where I see this stuff going, is just data entry, data cleanup. I often have this tool build out Excel files for me, just all the columns and the rows and the logic and the formulas. So I'll actually say, hey, I need an Excel file, 5 columns with first name, last name, email, phone number, and net worth. And then I need a formula on net worth that does this and that, and give me that, for example. And it'll just build out, again, the framework. And then as you're entering in data, you can actually spit it up back into GPT and be like, clean up everything, make sure there's no capitals or dashes or whatever, and it'll just cleanse it. Or if you feel less comfortable with that, I'm sure you've all run into the scenario where you don't know a formula in Excel and you're like, I'm pretty sure this is possible. Then you're Googling, going through 6 articles, trying different macros and all that. I've at least gone through that. You can just tell GPT, okay, here's what I need. Give me the formula. It gives it to you. You try it. Oh, no, that didn't work because of this. It gives you a new one. And so if you don't want it seeing your Excel data, then you can just ask it for formulas. And so data entry and data cleanup is huge. It can do so much stuff. I've had it clean whole Excel files. I've had it give me formulas that save me an hour's worth of research. And so to round it all out and talk about where it's going, here's the reality. These tools, especially language models like this, are now at a level of a PhD person. And so they're smart, they're fast, they understand things, and they understand just about anything. Now, they're not experts in everything, and where people are going with this is they're building very specific agents. So, for example, people will build agents for Canadian financial advising that understands all the ins and outs and rules and legislation on an RRSP. What I'm telling you today is more the general tool, kind of like the Google of AI. And so it's good at just about everything. It knows just about everything, but it's not an expert in everything. And so you're going to see a lot of things happen. One, you're going to see very specific agents being built very soon. You're also just going to see more and more people lean into this. And you're going to see a lot of your clients use this and bring it to you and say, well, it told me that. And so you need to be up to speed with this. You need to understand how they work, why they work, and you need to get really good at prompt engineering. At the very least, if you're to take anything out of this, I would say go sign up for ChatGPT, try it out, log in, try some prompts. The more specific you get, you'll see the answers you get. They get better and better, and start using it. If it's for building content, adjusting content, summarizing things, creating cool stories, like it's a really great tool to enhance your business. And once you get in there and start playing in this playground, you're going to see a lot of stuff that you can enhance. As always, thanks for listening. I hope you learned something about what AI is today. I'm happy to do more like this. I love this stuff. As always, please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.